tell you that when I announced back in July that I was taking over, I said that there were 2 announcements that I may have to make in my position that scared the living hell out of me. One of them I made back in July, which was that I needed to take over control. And I have to say that today we have to make the other.
The most likely plan right now is that the server will shut down toward the end of 2022, probably like January 2023.
The next generation of Introjets is here. Intra-Air's new 4th generation fleet of Introjets is completely redesigned, with better aesthetics, better size, better passenger comfort. The biggest upgrade to our fleet since 2017. And flying on a completely redesigned network of flights. To get you there faster and in style. Intra-Air didn't just introduce a fleet of brand new planes. We redid our entire network. With fewer but bigger hubs, and flights from our hubs to every airport we serve, and hundreds of point-to-point flights all across the server, all operated by our brand new fleet of Introjets. So we have a flight to wherever you need to be, wherever that is. Whether you're connecting in Segville, Alekna Bay, Deadbush, or Western Ocean. Or, if we happen to have just the direct flight you're looking for, the new Intra-Air will get you there in less time, with less stress and less connections. And on the brand new, completely redesigned 4th generation series of Introjets. We rebuilt our airline from the ground up to better serve you. The new Intra-Air takes flight now, at your nearest airport.
tell you that when I announced back in July that I was taking over, I said that there were 2 announcements that I may have to make in my position that scared the living hell out of me. One of them I made back in July, which was that I needed to take over control. And I have to say that today we have to make the other.
The most likely plan right now is that the server will shut down toward the end of 2022, probably like January 2023.
The next generation of Intrajets is here. Intra-Air's new 4th generation fleet of Intrajets is completely redesigned, with better aesthetics, better size, better passenger comfort. The biggest upgrade to our fleet since 2017. And flying on a completely redesigned network of flights. To get you there faster and in style. Intra-Air didn't just introduce a fleet of brand new planes. We redid our entire network. With fewer but bigger hubs, and flights from our hubs to every airport we serve, and hundreds of point-to-point flights all across the server, all operated by our brand new fleet of Intrajets. So we have a flight to wherever you need to be, wherever that is. Whether you're connecting in Segville, Elecna Bay, Deadbush, or Western Ocean. Or, if we happen to have just the direct flight you're looking for, the new Intra-Air will get you there in less time, with less stress and less connections. And on the brand new, completely redesigned 4th generation series of Intrajets. We rebuilt our airline from the ground up to better serve you. The new Intra-Air takes flight now, at your nearest airport.
come back for me. Don't come back at all. And who do you think you are? Running around leaving scars, collecting your jar of hearts, tearing love apart. You're gonna catch a cold from the ice inside your soul. Don't come back for me. Don't come back at all.
I have to tell you that when I announced back in July that I was taking over, I said that there were two announcements that I may have to make in my position that scared the living hell out of me. One of them I made back in July, which was that I needed to take over control. And I have to say that today we have to make the other.
The most likely plan right now is that the server will shut down toward the end of 2022, probably like January 2023.
The next generation of Introjets is here. Intra-Air's new 4th generation fleet of Introjets is completely redesigned, with better aesthetics, better size, better passenger comfort. The biggest upgrade to our fleet since 2017. And flying on a completely redesigned network of flights. To get you there faster and in style. Intra-Air didn't just introduce a fleet of brand new planes. We redid our entire network. With fewer but bigger hubs, and flights from our hubs to every airport we serve, and hundreds of point-to-point flights all across the server, all operated by our brand new fleet of Introjets. So we have a flight to wherever you need to be, wherever that is. Whether you're connecting in Segville, Alekna Bay, Deadbush, or Western Ocean. Or if we happen to have just the direct flight you're looking for. The new Intra-Air will get you there in less time, with less stress and less connections. And on the brand new, completely redesigned 4th generation series of Introjets. We rebuilt our airline from the ground up to better serve you. The new Intra-Air takes flight now at your nearest airport.
Don't come back for me. Don't come back at all. And who do you think you are? Running around leaving scars, collecting your jar of hearts, tearing love apart. You're gonna catch a cold from the ice inside your soul. Don't come back for me. Don't come back at all.
I have to tell you that when I announced back in July that I was taking over, I said that there were two announcements that I may have to make in my position that scared the living hell out of me. One of them I made back in July, which was that I needed to take over control. And I have to say that today we have to make the other.
The most likely plan right now is that the server will shut down toward the end of 2022, probably like January 2023.
The next generation of Intrajets is here. Intra-Air's new 4th generation fleet of Intrajets is completely redesigned, with better aesthetics, better size, better passenger comfort. The biggest upgrade to our fleet since 2017. And flying on a completely redesigned network of flights. To get you there faster and in style. Intra-Air didn't just introduce a fleet of brand new planes. We redid our entire network. With fewer but bigger hubs, and flights from our hubs to every airport we serve, and hundreds of point-to-point flights all across the server, all operated by our brand new fleet of Intrajets. So we have a flight to wherever you need to be, wherever that is. Whether you're connecting in Segville, Elecna Bay, Deadbush, or Western Ocean. Or, if we happen to have just the direct flight you're looking for, the new Intra-Air will get you there in less time, with less stress and less connections. And on the brand new, completely redesigned 4th generation series of Intrajets. We rebuilt our airline from the ground up to better serve you. The new Intra-Air takes flight now, at your nearest airport.
you think you are? Running around, leaving scars, collecting your jar of hearts, tearing love apart. You're gonna catch a cold from the ice inside your soul. Don't come back for me. Don't come back at all.
I have to tell you that when I announced back in July that I was taking over, I said that there were two announcements that I may have to make in my position that scared the living hell out of me. One of them I made back in July, which was that I needed to take over control. And I have to say that today we have to make the other.
The most likely plan right now is that the server will shut down toward the end of 2022, probably like January 2023.
The next generation of Introjets is here. Intra-Air's new 4th generation fleet of Introjets is completely redesigned, with better aesthetics, better size, better passenger comfort. The biggest upgrade to our fleet since 2017. And flying on a completely redesigned network of flights. To get you there faster and in style. Intra-Air didn't just introduce a fleet of brand new planes. We redid our entire network. With fewer but bigger hubs, and flights from our hubs to every airport we serve, and hundreds of point-to-point flights all across the server, all operated by our brand new fleet of Introjets. So we have a flight to wherever you need to be, wherever that is. Whether you're connecting in Segville, Alekna Bay, Deadbush, or Western Ocean. Or if we happen to have just the direct flight you're looking for. The new Intra-Air will get you there in less time, with less stress and less connections. And on the brand new, completely redesigned 4th generation series of Introjets. We rebuilt our airline from the ground up to better serve you. The new Intra-Air takes flight now at your nearest airport.
Just
Yes,
realized
you can
I
sit
was
behind me, Scully.
muted.
That's fine. Yes, Scully, you're allowed to sit behind me.
I need to grab the table for votes.
Oh yeah, I forgot
yes.
to make
I
a
need to,
table for that. Yeah, sorry about that.
and I need to randomize the list.
Trying to find one we had past one. It's definitely out of date.
Scully.
Please bear in mind as I update it.
Okay, the list has been randomized. All right, I have 140, so we can go ahead and get started. While staff are kind of getting the last couple paperwork bits in place, and oh god, we're being invaded by more stuff. What display border? Missa, if it doesn't have a shut-off switch, then kill it. But probably best to not have stuff cycling for no reason. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to, except for those in Pacific time, in which case, good morning. Welcome to the November 2021 General Staff Meeting for Minecraft Rapid Transit. 7 staff present today, so fairly a smaller crowd, but hopefully that means that we do not have to take too much time arguing about things. We do have 2 Premier City candidates that we reviewed in the private portion, so I will get into those results now. The Premier City candidates were Tits and Saki, submitted by Frog, I think. And then the other one was Muon by Harbor Random 852. Yeah, I know there are 6 G's. It's just like, how do you pronounce it, right? So yeah, the second one is Muon by Harbor Random 852. The vote on Tits and Saki came down as 7-0 against. The vote for V1 was 7-0 against. So neither candidate city will be promoted for this meeting. We'll be publishing the feedback in the usual spot. I'll note that the general sentiment was that with Tits and Saki, we can pull up the notes. So Tits and Saki had applied before, back in May of 2020, and there has been quite a bit of additional development that has happened since last time it was up. We found that there was still a bunch of little terraforming bits that we thought needed improvement, as well as I think that we mentioned some bits that the area is a little bit confusing in terms of what was actually frogs versus the whole leasing thing versus a town that got merged in. So, but I mean, I think again, both of these towns, I'll just say, were close. And then Ni1, there were some unfurnished buildings and still some terraforming issues. I will note, just for the sake of being on the record about this, we are aware that there is a chunk in Mu1 that is acting a little bit weird. We're not holding that against Harbor because we don't necessarily know the exact cause of that yet. But with respect to the rest of the city, again, it was close. There were a few issues that are held back, and because we do have fairly high standards for the premier rank as it stands. So thank you to Frog and Harbor, and sorry that we were not able to, that the vote came down as this, and we hope to get the chance to review your towns again in the future. I think that is, I mean, that's the only thing that we talked about in private. I will continue, or I will just remind everybody that I know that we announced back in the special staff meeting a few weeks ago of some of the details regarding the long-term future of stuff and server closure timeline. We have not begun any of that process just yet. So business will continue to operate as usual until you hear from us otherwise. All right. Staff, anything else that you want to add on the premier notes before we get into considering Vicky from Odd again? Okay, hearing none, we can go ahead and open the initial ballot. So there's 7 of us. The list has been randomized. So we shall open the initial ballot as follows. First up on the initial ballot will be Missa.
Oh gosh darn it. I'm gonna vote 4.
It's a random list. Okay. Susie.
Oh, 4?
HVT.
Neutral.
Skilly.
4.
Chief is a yes. Protocol.
I'm gonna say a 4.
And Frumple.
4.
Oh.
Okay, initial ballot is
I'm not on
610.
Never mind.
I'm working on it. I was like, wait. I was trying to find you, and I was like, wait a moment.
Right. Okay, just to be clear, it is the initial ballot, so it could change a second, but for the sake of if there's anything that needs to be said for the record, HVT, you are the neutral. Anything in particular that you want to comment on?
Not really. I don't really have an opinion.
Okay, that's fair.
That's fair. Also, just Chief, I'd like to clarify, you didn't receive any absentee ballots, just for everyone to know. So,
Correct. No, yeah, correct. I did not receive any absentees, so otherwise, otherwise they would have been included in that. So,
So for Vicky, I didn't really see any reason to say no, and she was pretty good as a moderator. Anyways, while I usually kind of unnerved by a community, but I don't want to come off with the wrong impression trying to word it. Well, I'm usually pretty unnerved by large portions of people trying to basically campaign for something. That's not something to hold against Vicky personally, and in this case, I didn't see any issues with Vicky to prevent her from returning from the staff team, since she did leave didn't leave with a cloud over her head, and there's nothing that's popped up since that seemingly would stop her. Plus, I think she's returned to the activity that is expected for a staff member.
okay. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward. I mean, I know that we've got a little bit of the evidence, or a little bit of the advantage of having been on staff previously, and that helps in terms of getting anecdotal experience and working in the position. But yeah, I mean, I think overall, I think there's lots of good stuff, and Vicky has been great to work with previously, and happy to bring her on again.
Yeah, if she feels that she can do it again, like, and she's got time for it, I have no comments against it. She did a great job in past, and trust she can do it again.
Okay. Any other comments before we certify this as final ballot or vote changes?
Just gonna get this ready.
Okay, seeing none, that is a final certified ballot of 610. Congratulations, Vicky, and welcome back. Alrighty.
Vicky, we'll talk to you later to figure out, all the
getting
stuff
everything
about promotion.
reset up.
Paperwork.
Yep, but
and
but,
also,
Kitty, not Kitty, Vicky. Yeah, you don't need to do anything. You can just sit back.
yep, and also, Vicky, remember, technically you can't, because you just got voted in, you can't really vote on any of the topics, and there's some pretty big topics in this GSM, so
Yeah,
you just sit back.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of, and now for something completely different. 5A. So, okay. This one, I think a few folks have seen coming, and I know that there's been the thread of discussion on what to do about politics. So, for those who have not been following the thread or the proposal or all of that, essentially this came out from a couple of different things. Number one is political discussion requires a different kind of hand in terms of moderation tactic compared to general discussion. And over the last while, multiple staff have expressed that they are tired of seeing arguments in the politics channel, or tired of needing to step in for political discussion just because people can get really entrenched really quickly. So staff have, and I think the staff who are here can express for sure, but I know that there has been the sentiment that moderating politics can be quite tiring. And I know I personally keep the channel muted all the time. And there have been a few high profile incidents recently where it has resulted in some pretty high level warnings getting issued. So the question was, what do we do about politics? And there are a few options that I thought through when looking at this. So one is do nothing, but I think it's at the point where we need to do something about it. A second option is change the rules of the channel and have staff moderate them. But again, that is the problem of staff need to be willing to moderate it. The most extreme one is what I'm proposing, which is all political discussion would be banned from MRT channels. Now, we can certainly adjust based on some specifics. I know that one of the things that I think has come up is similar to the advertising policy, an offhanded like mention of a name or a country or something like that. That's not what I'm concerned with. What I am concerned with is people using politics as a discussion venue because of the fact that by nature of politics, it can either descend into an echo chamber or a conflict very quickly, even from the best of intentions. So that's kind of where I'm coming from on this. So I'll open the floor for other staff to comment. Kitty and I know Otto had submitted a comment as well in opposition to this. You know, we'll also, as people want to speak on this as well, then I think we can certainly take those into account too. But staff, any want to jump in and comment on this?
I'm gonna kind of come in here, kind of say I help kind of push this to the forefront because, again, I keep the channel muted, but there are like most of these IRL channels being keep kind of siloed off, and we don't really touch it much. Like y'all are pretty good about kind of not really needing much, but as Chief has said, like politics is fairly divisive, and I've had other members have told me before that we need moderation in the channel, and like we've had that discussion in staff, and as we've kind of been talking about, no one has the time to do it. Like the MRT, the staff, we moderate the server itself, like the Minecraft server. I don't have it. For me personally, I don't have the time to sit there staring at Discord 24/7. Nor do I want to stare at a channel like politics and keep checking it over and over again. I don't have the time, nor do I want to have that have that commitment that I have to do it.
Cece, I'd like to add on to that. It's not just time, it's do staff want to do it? Like, even if we didn't monitor the channel all the time, people will bring these sort of issues up. Like, they'll DM a staff member or something, or myself. I personally did that with Crimson, and I'll go into it later, but Puef as well. And Frank, you have to be delicate about it. It's very I try to be specific with both of them that it's not about their views, it's about how they're engaging the channel. Like for Puef, it was specifically he would just post things, and then people would try to respond to him, and then he wouldn't respond at all. So then the question becomes like, why are you posting things? The point of the channel is to discuss. It is to engage with other people. And I've heard some of this complaint too. Like people are just using the politics channel. I'm not talking about P4 here, but just the Discord politics channel as a way to just post things, and it's not great. Yeah, I'm gonna wait for some more opinions, but I'll just make this very clear. My position on this, I have some questions for both. I guess both sides of the people who are against the proposal and staff later on, but I want to hear some more opinions. But my current position is I'm pretty mixed on it. I'm pretty ambivalent. Like, just to be clear, this proposal was pushed by like CC Chief Zinra, I think. Like I definitely been in that. I've definitely been involved in this sort of things, but I can see why just banning everything may not be the best choice. So, but I'd like to hear some more opinions from others first.
So actually, I don't know if any other staff are outright. How many other staff are in the same boat as Frumple or are on the other side outright against the ban of politics? For me personally, I'm still on the side that overall it's more than it's more on the side of a couple people causing problems than just the entire channel in general. And so in a vacuum, I would probably be more against banning politics because I don't think it's gotten to that point. But on the same time, as a practical issue, I think the fact that only myself and a couple other staff possibly are actively looking at politics is a real issue. Because the channel does need moderation of some kind, and we can't or shouldn't force other staff members to moderate the channel if they don't want to. So on terms of the practical grounds, I do see the justification for shutting it down.
Yeah,
I mean,
to be
Scully,
clear,
right now
like
is just sorry, Chief.
Okay, yeah, I mean, to be clear, from my perspective, like I recognize that shutting it down is a very blunt tool, and that in terms of like, do other options exist? Absolutely. I'm just concerned about the practical side of things of, who's going to be willing to put themselves in that position, and then what happens when they leave. Because, if it's down to a couple staff who volunteer to moderate the discussion, and then they decide that they're tired of it. Well, now either the burden gets shifted about to fewer staff members, and so then they're going to experience more burden per person, and then that'll exacerbate it further, and then eventually it means that we're kind of back to square one.
I'm going
So
to go more on that point, Chief, actually,
Yeah.
because I'm
Okay.
gonna ask this to Skelly. I think before Echo resigned, wasn't it just mainly you and Echo, right, Skelly, that were kind of being active in the channel? In terms of
Possibly
staff?
Dinty and Missa as well. I don't know for sure how many other people have checked it actively.
Because I just remember from prior, like, just from my eyes, just seeing it as mainly you and Echo being active. And I know from IRL talks with the Echo, like he kind of got tired of moderating it. Because I agree with Chief's point of I think we're running low on resources of people that would be willing to do it.
Right. And also
Oh, sure, Kitty.
for the potential, for the comment of just let the channel self-moderate. Well, then why is it an official thing? And that's essentially saying, hey, here's a room that you guys are allowed to go and do stuff in all you want, and it's not supervised by staff. Yeah. So
Kitty
Vicky,
Center,
so
but-
if we ban, okay, yeah. So essentially, if we ban it in official channels, you all can, like, there's nothing stopping you from making an auxiliary Discord to move it to.
But isn't there an issue with, because we've previously said that MRT rules do apply to the auxiliary discords, right?
Oh, right.
Do have that.
Kitty, you have to accept it's kind of weird. Like if you raise your hand, you have to kind of counter accept. So look on the bottom, you should have the button to become a speaker.
Discord, why?
Right. It should be either way, but there you go.
Okay, there you go, Kitty.
I think streamer mode was the streamer mode thing was making it buggy. Just a comment, I would like to add on to a point that Skelly made, which is that, like, I get it's not the most fun channel to moderate, but I'm someone who looks in the politics channel frequently, and I post in the politics channel frequently, and to me it really doesn't seem like there's much problematic posts in that other than, like, a few people once in a while. And, like, in the past cases when that has happened, that has been dealt with. There was one case in which someone was banned from the politics channel because of that, and because they were the source of the problem. So I think, to me, getting rid of the channel altogether because of a few people misusing it once in a while, I think is an overreaction.
Okay, I'm going to interject here, Kitty. Can we agree? I think there's merit to your point that it's only been, as you said in your statement, a few bad actors. I think there's merit in that. But I think can we agree that in the past, if you look at, like, all the warnings and the politics channel has been there for years, can we agree collectively that that we've seen a lot more bad actors than usual? Does that make sense to people here?
I mean, I don't know if I can really recall any incidents that happened years ago. I think
you can look at the warning list as an example, like, right? Like, if you look at 2018, 19, like, I don't think we've had any warnings around that channel, right?
But even, I mean, maybe there has been a recent increase. I don't know. I'm not looking at, like, the data right now, but I mean, it may be more people than before, but it's still, like, I could probably, I can't really think of more than, like, a handful of people in, like, that past year who have gotten in trouble. Like, there's Crimson, there's Subway,
there's Nomads.
Who else?
From my point of view, Volp would be added to that list too, though he wouldn't be on the channel itself. Most of his bad acting, I would say, would be on the staff side, but I've already explained what that is in my statements. So I guess, okay. So sorry, go ahead, G.
Kitty, Yeah, so in response to that, so I would agree that in general that I think that the biggest issues, I think you're right, that they have been centered on a few particular individuals. And I think that, we have in certain circumstances removed those people from the channel. And yeah, that's addressed it for a period of time. There's a couple things that have happened. One is after like Crimson requested to be removed from the channel, or I forget if that was voluntary or not, whatever. But Crimson was removed from the channel for whatever reason. Then a while back asks me to come back online or come back into the channel because he said he was, feeling prepared to re-engage. Comes back in and immediately incurs an L5 after conducting the channel. So
sorry, correction there. That he didn't do it immediately. There was a point where he was okay for a while, but then he got to a point where he got the L5.
But in that
Okay.
case,
Yeah.
that is a case of a repeat offender. That's one person who had the privilege taken away, and when it was given back, had it taken away again. And if that happens in the future, you could do what you did, like with Nomads, take the privilege away permanently. I don't think taking away the privilege permanently for the entire community is the right response.
So, the couple kind of downstream points about that. So, I mean, Crimson's certainly one of the more high-profile examples of that. When there are issues that show up in the channel, one of the things that I think I would want to see happen is balancing removing problematic stuff, but also accurately doing so and determining with accuracy of what the true source of problems in the channel is, that can take time. And during the time that we're figuring that out, then an argument can still happen. And that's just inherent in how politics as a conversation topic works. The other thing too is, this still implies that staff are willing to put in the effort to go in and manually remove that permission and find, and do the investigative work to determine that this was the person who was actually causing it. So that's happening. And then also, who's to say that if you remove one particular person, that's going to solve the channel completely? I mean, it doesn't. We've seen
I mean,
that
you're not
remove
gonna
someone, and then a few months later, someone takes their place.
You're not gonna have a perfect politics channel where everyone acts like angels all the time, and I get that removing the channel would make enforcement easier for mods because there would be no enforcement. The point I made in my comment is I think the negative impact on that to the community, to the people who use that channel, I think is greater than I think the cost outweighs the benefit.
I have a question I'd like to pose to Chief and others here, or the staff really. Going back on the bad actors thing, it seems like we had quite a few in the last while. Is there any indication that this trend will continue? Because I don't know about you, I'm getting the sense that maybe not. Right? Like,
I think it's hard to say.
Default it'd be hard to say, but I'm trying to think of potential people who could, be, I'll be blunt here, not mature enough to be having a discussion in that channel. And I don't know.
Just to interject on that, I know you mentioned MJP before, and MJP is one of the people who comments frequently. I use the politics channel frequently, and me and MJP's beliefs don't completely align, so I often find myself disagreeing with him, but I don't usually get the sense that he's being disrespectful or really crossing the line or anything. So I just kind of want to defend him in that regard.
Kitty, I'll concur with you with that. I'm going to do a comparison here. Again, but way back in earlier this year, I think, or last year, I don't remember. But a lot of people were bringing up issues with both Puef and Crimson, and I decided to go talk with both of them, and again, specifically asking them to engage in the channel in a more constructive manner. Is the best way I can put it. Puef was actually like he was listening. I'm not sure if he, in terms of actions, if he's improved. I haven't actually seen that myself, but at the very least, he was listening. Like he was at least open to like, okay, like, yeah, maybe I could be doing a better job there. On the contrast, when I talked to Crimson, he basically did not want to engage. He didn't want to engage at all. He didn't want to discuss anything that I brought up. And yeah, and eventually, as we know, that led to him, getting removed from the server. But like, I'm just pointing out this comparison because it is possible to intervene on some people and get them to improve or at least try to improve their behavior in the channel. So, and sometimes it doesn't work as well.
And if I could just vouch, I think the difference between the for me, it's like the problematic people in the politics channel have been the people who resort to name calling, really get vicious about it, stuff like that. I don't think I've ever seen that from MJP, even when we disagree, and even when they're obviously there's debate that goes on the channel, but usually the debate is respectful and civil, doesn't cross the line into something the staff would need to be concerned with.
Yeah, for Crimson, if I would try to be in his shoes, the sense I got from him was, even though I tried to be explicit about it's about how he's engaging the channel, he interpreted it as an attack on his beliefs or attack on his views. And I think Skelly, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but you tried to talk to Crimson as well, and I feel like you probably ran into the same problem there. So yeah, sometimes you don't know how people are going to react in these sort of situations. Chief, CC, others, what's your response to all that?
I mean, again, to me, it kind of goes back to what do we do about that? And I'm torn between. I get that it is a useful place for a lot of people, and that there certainly are examples of people that who do actually engage in civil discussion, and it very well could be that I'm blowing the recent events out of proportion, extrapolating too much. That said, again, so many staff don't have eyes on it, and it feels weird to have a section of the Discord that is not moderated or watched over to the same degree as other channels.
Okay.
It just doesn't sit well with me to have that be there.
Well, yeah,
The other thing
I said that too because people expect us to have a fast response to most situations on the server, and with not many people watching politics, that is not really going to happen. You're reliant on the numbers have drastically lowered, so the response time is going to be worse to any situation that could arise. Like right now, I feel like with politics, it's mainly whoever tells, whoever gets word to Skelly, right, or any typically, because Skelly has mainly been the one that's been bringing up the issues in politics to staff, because he has had the most experience in that channel and watches it more than the rest of us. And our response time has been kind of worse because we have to get all the info from Skelly, understand the situation, and then finally react to it.
Okay, I have a suggestion, though, that I need to flesh this out a bit more. But since the concern seems to be about, as Chief said, some argument happens and we need to react fast, right? How about, regardless of who, if we see people arguing, regardless of whatever context happens, we just give the people that were in that conversation a timeout. Like we could just remove them from politics, and then we take the time afterward to figure out, okay, who was being more disrespectful, or that sort of thing. Like, would that solve the problem of like leaving that there and then having it just continue more arguments in the channel itself?
That's still predicated on the initial response.
I think it's as long as someone brings it to our, like, again, I don't expect people to look at the channel, because for me, a lot of things were like people brought these things up, right? So brought them to our attention.
MPO liaison is specifically to MPOs gods, not to
that,
every
and that
Discord.
also kind of got discontinued.
Yeah, so
just
they've
because MPOs
gone.
are kind of dead.
Well, no gods. It's to MPOs, not to every auxiliary Discord. Is that Rumple?
No one has that title right now, God. So it is kind of a moot point.
Yeah, there's it.
I think it's just MPOs.
No, I think I did say, because there were some auxiliary, like the transit service one, which is not technically an MPO. Like it was the point of the role was just for someone to just check on if something happens over there in any of those Discords, like just be aware of it, or be able to even mediate that within the Discord without having it leak on to other places, right? So but
okay, I take that back then, gods.
Sorry. While you're thinking about that, I'd like to bring in. I want to throw another wrench into this. So one point I'd like to bring up is there's some topics on the server where they are political in nature, but I feel like talking about them is beneficial, or at least it's worth talking about. I'm gonna, like, the one topic I can think of that's like the elephant in the room is the coronavirus. Like I've seen a lot of cases, not so much in politics, the Discord politics, but more in P4, where a lot of people will just want to be able to vent about the pandemic or things that are happening. We saw a lot of this like earlier in 2020. And like, I guess the question is, if there's a blanket ban on the coronavirus is a political topic, in the sense that, yeah, there's going to be discussion about mask mandates, like vaccines, and like how far do we go with restrictions, that sort of thing. That's all, I think, still up for debate. Like, no one really knows. My question is to Chief CC and other staff, like, if there's a blanket ban on politics, does that mean we can't talk about the pandemic at all, or coronavirus at all?
I feel like the context matters a lot more, like what exactly of it we're talking about here, right? Like COVID, like which aspect of it are we talking about here?
I'll also just say I think there is a difference between someone, say, feeling frustrated about about being under lockdown, or something like that, and venting just kind of their experience and all that, versus arguing about what a government should or should not be doing.
The problem with that, though. The problem with that, though, is we've since the pandemic has started, we've sort of because, again, people come on here to escape. They don't necessarily want to hear about like how the pandemic or things are going on. They just want to escape from that. So we've sort of dumped any sort of discussion, pandemic related or coronavirus related, into P4. So that doesn't really end. And I'd also argue that sometimes these topics, like maybe some of these conversations start off with someone venting, and then it evolves into, as you said, more about what governments are doing, or politically related. So I don't think there's a really good way of separating that, to be honest. And I would argue that by taking away if we completely ban any discussion about the pandemic or coronavirus, I think that's a detriment to the community. Like, I think people, there needs to be some way for them to vent about it here. And from what I'm reading here, this blanket ban will take that away. So
Yeah, I mean
it's
that's hard to, yeah, that's a hard one.
If I could chime in, that's basically the point that I made in my comment, except that, like, you could basically apply that to any real life topic of discussion. Like, people could be having a conversation about transportation, and, like, you know, this is a transit server. Most people are interested in transportation, and a lot of transportation issues in real life have like politics behind it, like transportation planning in cities, how political decisions influence that, and like, so it's not just COVID. It's like basically any real life topic of discussion can be tied to politics, and I feel like not being able to talk about politics really is very limiting in what you're able to talk about.
And if staff were to try to define what's the boundary between someone just talking about transit or someone talking about the politics of transit, like, I think I said this, like, I think the idea of banning politics, it sounds great on paper, but in practice, I think it's just going to cause more problems like this. We have to determine, it's going to be up to the staff member to determine, is this political enough? Like,
well, that's what we already do today. We literally tell members to go to P4 when we feel like something is political anyway.
We do, but now we're saying, instead of just still allowing that conversation, we're getting rid of it. That's a big jump, right?
And like disallowing all of those conversations, I think that is a very high price to pay.
Yeah.
For when the thing you're trying to fix is a few people going overboard in the politics channel.
Yeah, at least with the P4 channel, at least like maybe some staff members just being very cautious. I've done this before. Like, it seems like it could start going into politics, so let's just be cautious and just move the conversation over. So and everyone's still happy because they can still keep on discussing. But now, if we're trying to determine whether they allow it or to stop the conversation completely, I think that's going to be dicey. Like,
I mean, yeah. So my point wasn't really. I was just kind of going against the point of, we've already been defining that line. That was kind of my point. Like, it wasn't that we've never defined that line. It was kind of, we've already been doing that. I don't disagree with your point there about getting rid of it versus putting it into pigeonholing it.
I get that. So I'm just reading people's.
My main concern is just there's expectation of the community to moderate, and I just don't think we have the resources to do it.
I mean, frankly, I think if people are really having issues with other people in the politics channel, like, and there are issues that other people are being bothered by, I think staff will hear of it from other people. It's not like you have to be have the channel open 24/7, and you know, like Skelly said, it's not like there's that many staff members who look in the channel, but I mean, it doesn't mean zero staff members. And if a staff member sees an issue, and as I said, it's not even like they have to be constantly patrolling for issues. If there's a problem to the point where other people are being bothered, those other people can tell a staff member.
Kitty, I do have to say, like, what the staff concerns are. So how it's getting a little clear to me that, like, this is not the status quo may not be. I don't think it's going to work. I think we agree that's not going to work long term, because if we just let it go, then staff are just, including myself, are just going to get exasperated by trying to continue moderating this channel. So what are some solutions that you would suggest? like maybe like adding on to the ones that maybe have been suggested so far?
I mean, the solution that's been suggested of giving staff the power to like give people a timeout in the politics channel, I mean, that seems like a pretty reasonable solution to me.
But then there's Chief's point. However, there's Chief's point that there has to be people watching the channel in the first place. So what do we do about that?
I mean, I don't know how. I don't think I really agree that staff need to be looking at the channel all the time, because there isn't problems. I mean, the concern was brought up that like members expect staff to respond quickly, but it's like there's not I mean, if things happen in any other channel, it's like if there's an issue, someone can bring it up with a staff member and a staff member can review it. I don't think like
Sorry, can we just where is this expectation coming from that we're supposed to like? I know
Yeah,
like,
so I have this.
Go
I
ahead,
don't
Susan.
really have. I'm not afraid to. They're not afraid of me saying this. So it's just kind of from conversations I've had with other members, specifically Cody, Otto. Like in the past, conversations I've had with them in the past.
Yeah, I've heard that from Otto too. Like, it's
like I do agree. I don't with Kitty that it's not just politics that this expectation is there. It's kind of all across Discord. Because as I've kind of mentioned before, like when in your absence, it was kind of this expectation of staff need to be watching Discord, which I was like kind of learned to appreciate the fact of how often you do watch Discord yourself.
So can we change that expectation then? Like maybe I don't know if say about generally, but at least for politics channel, knowing that we know that the top, like trying to moderate that channel requires a delicate touch. It requires analysis, it requires understanding the context. So can we just say like that expectation is just too much? Like I feel like yeah, that's ideally, yes, we could respond quickly, but maybe that's not realistic, right?
And if I could add on, it's like in any other, I think it's unreasonable to expect staff to react immediately to any situation, especially like most situations where there is like a significant problem in behavior, staff usually act after the fact. It's not like staff, because when staff issue punishments and stuff like that, that has like real consequences, and so it makes sense for the staff to take their time and consider their course of action. But it's like in the past, for example, there have been people who got warnings at GSMs. I don't think the expectation was that the moment that person was like doing something, that staff would immediately jump the gun and be like, you're banned. I think given that stuff, that big moderation, I mean, like some moderation decisions are easy. If a guest comes online and starts spamming the N-word, then that's an easy ban. But like most complicated rule enforcing situations, you don't just like do it the snap of your fingers. You like talk with other staff, you consider it.
So what do you guys think about changing expectations here about that?
I think I'm fine with changing the expectation, honestly.
Yeah,
I
as I
see your
said
CC breathing. I don't know.
as I said in the chat,
I'm thinking.
Okay.
The expectation is to be paying attention to Discord that much. That's a bit unreasonable. I'm not saying that the channel should self-moderate itself, as in people backseat moderate or people try to nitpick and tattle on each other, but I think just telling members that they can alert a staff member that's maybe is comfortable with moderating politics, like myself, or even just any staff member, if they see something, is fine.
I guess this brings up another issue. Like, do people feel comfortable bringing up issues with staff? Because that has been an issue in the past. So I don't know, like I could ask these people here, like, would you feel comfortable bringing up, if you were in the politics channel, or any channel really, like, are you confident with just bringing it up with a staff member? Like, by issues in the past, there's some cases where members have decided, like, they don't, because of previous incidents or their previous experiences, they decide not to bring issues that they see up to staff. And yeah, when that happens, it's bad all around, because then we don't know, admins or chief or myself don't know what's going, like, or even staff, like, we're not aware of what's going on, and the person just keeps those things to themselves, which doesn't really make them feel better at all. So yeah. So sorry, I'm going to repeat the question. Like, are the people who are listening to this meeting right now, like, are you okay with, bringing these sort of things up to staff?
Doesn't necessarily have to be a political thing, like,
Yeah.
but in this case, it's, that's helpful. But
if I really thought someone crossed the line, I would.
Like, to take an example, like the issues with Puef and Crimson, those were brought up because someone brought it up to a staff member. So if that didn't happen, I'm not sure if it would have been, if those sort of things would have been caught, to be honest. Or maybe it would, but maybe much later. That's a good question, Elite. I don't know. Where do we go from here? Like, or you're talking about the topic. Hello?
I already gave my answer. Maybe you didn't hear. If I felt like someone like crossed the line and was being disrespectful to others, I would be comfortable telling staff about it.
Chief CC?
Well, this is kind of why I put it into forum, was like, I know people had objected, and that's why I put the question of, if this is wrong, what should we do? And I know Kitty has made their arguments very strong on that. And many others are kind of unsure of what to say. I'm kind of in the middle. I mean, I think we both kind of made both valid points. I think Kitty's made some valid points to himself.
yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
going
again,
back.
there's good reason. I mean, there's good argument on both sides of it, I think.
Okay, here's some.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead, Chief.
well, I'm just still trying to think through exactly, where we go on it.
Okay.
So
there's a suggestion I made about timing out people. There's another. Just read mine. Yeah, there's another suggestion. I don't know if it'll be as good, but can we trial a ban on politics and see what happens? Like 3 to 6 months and see what things happen.
I'm opposed to banning politics in any form for any amount of time.
If we trial a ban on politics, it's still going to probably. One of the issues raised is that it would end up sort of pushing out people who have primarily been involved in the community via politics, and I don't think that damage would be undone if we just filed a ban and then undid it 3 months later.
Okay, that's a fair point. I'm just putting this idea out there since we seem to be not being able to
I don't,
find.
Well,
I
any
don't, really
pushing
think,
it.
I don't think the benefits would really work with doing a trial.
Also, to bring
if
up
we were
a
gonna do it, it would.
to reiterate a point that Gods
ahead.
made earlier, like, if you ban politics, someone's going to make a Discord that will basically function in the same way, and will have all the same, any problems that the politics channel would have had, that Discord would have that problem. Anyone who, and you could say that, like, staff aren't going to moderate it, but typically staff have asserted in the past that they will uphold MRT rules in auxiliary discords, and for example, the United Cities, there were like a few arguments that happened there, and the staff like basically came down in the United Cities and were like, you have to enforce like MRT rules, and so like, and that would just kind of kick the problem. But then if you ban political discussion in auxiliary discords, it's like, what are you going to do? Prevent people from talking about politics outside the MRT and punish them on the MRT for that?
Didn't we talk about auxiliary discords in your thread, Chief, about like doing a spinoff like that? I think that point was made.
Yeah, I mean, like I think I might have also misunderstood kind of how the auxiliary Discord assumptions have worked, and I think that particular thing that I think we may need to make that clear again. So in which case, like if we were able to say, yeah, you guys can make one, but like it's all on you, then that's something that could be an option. But since we've got the general assumption that MRT rules apply, then that kind of throws a wrench in. So yeah, I mean, now that I'm thinking about it a little bit more, I do think they're just kind of reminding. Yeah, I mean, I think if we kind of step up the use of the timeouts from the channel, that I think, then as we see stuff that's fine. But then also just I think I would also add on to that of just reminding staff that, if there's an argument that's like in progress, that I think staff should, have the slow mode button nearby to put that on if an argument is getting heated while we're still investigating stuff.
I mean, I know we had that discussion when Mega first did it over whether we could do that, and I think we've kind of all settled on that it's fine.
Yeah.
About
it was weird because it didn't. Sorry, it was weird because it didn't fit in the warning system at the time, so it was a little unusual. But yeah.
Yeah, because okay. I mean, now like that is settling with me a little bit, and I think I think as much as we're able to shift the expectation, I think that would help.
Can I ask this?
I mean, Skelly and like Skelly, I think just to clarify, are you still willing to like be a first point of contact?
I'm not going to be looking at politics 24/7 because I have real life responsibilities and sleeping to do. But yes, I am willing to do that.
Okay.
I think we're gonna have to mainly. It's going to be up to the people in that channel to notify us. Like if they don't, then
question.
Yep. Sorry, go ahead.
So, given that we're trying to make sure that the expectation isn't that high of us of how to moderate, would we be okay with just putting a role for politics that way, just to say like, you accept that response, like you're accepting that we might not be there to moderate, like you're willing to do it, like the maturity of that it's on that player of them willing to be there. Sorry if my words aren't getting there, but
I don't. I think we've had some arguments, like some discussions about like adding that role. I don't know if that's really useful. I would definitely add it to the guidelines, like at least state in there, in addition to everything else, like say, if there's an issue, bring it up with staff, and also don't expect us to respond immediately, right? Like it may take some time for us to figure things out.
I mean, if I'm going to be completely honest, I don't think people read the guidelines. in the channel.
That's fair. Yep, I couldn't agree with you in some cases about that.
Yeah.
We've made that completely clear multiple times, and we have modified it, and it hasn't really changed much.
So
I'm just thinking, like,
well,
that's why I was
hold
thinking
on.
slightly raising
Hold
the
on, is
barrier of
it-
entry would help.
Is it?
That's why I
is
was
it?
thinking.
Is it most people reading the channel, or is it the? I guess I said Kitty said the bad actors who haven't read the guidelines. But let me pose. Like I was gonna ask it. Like let me pose this question: if in the next, whatever we decide here, if except for maybe a ban, like if we just in the next 6 months and we find that we don't have a major incident, let's say, in that channel, would your tune change about that channel? Because as I said, like we don't know whether it has been just a bunch of bad bad actors or not, but can we just give time to see if that's the case or not, right?
I mean, I'm gonna kind of acknowledge my biases here. I'm not really that confident of online discussion about politics versus in-person discussions on politics, because I don't know the other person at the side of that screen versus IRL, where I can kind of understand them more.
Sure, but also keep in mind the politics channel has been there for years before, and yes, it has had occasional issues, but nothing to this extent in the past year or so. So that sort of, to me, that sort of indicates like it is possible for people online, in this case, kids community, to have civil discussions, or at least not so problematic discussions.
Yeah, that's why I had like kind of softened my tune of not completely banning it. That's why I was asking about the role instead.
Okay.
Trying to raise the raise the
The
barrier, but
way-
still keep it for people that want it.
So the way that I
That's why I'd asked the question there.
Yes.
Oh, chief went away. Okay. I mean, let's have people like the CC's idea of the role. Is that something people would want? Do you think that'll? I'm not sure if it'll solve anything, but at least it does at least put a barrier.
Yeah, so it's like what I'm proposing is not really change anything else except that opt-in role to get into politics. Like I'm trying to be completely clear about what I'm saying here.
Also, sorry, yeah, I had a phone call just now. So no, my the problem. I mean, I like the idea of using the role. The thing is that the logistics of it is basically what you need to do is make it so that people can give it to themselves initially, but then if we remove it, that they can't add it back. And I don't know if there's a way to enforce that.
Yeah, the bot, I don't think the bot at least we have right now doesn't allow that. So
I don't know if there's a way to roles.
There might be a way. It's kind of, I think roles. Yeah, I think you could have. This almost bothers you. You could have a not politics role, like that overrides the politics role. If you don't get what I mean, and and that role specifically has a no. You can't read the channel.
With Dinty's
I mean,
alternate solution.
I've been in another Discord before where you.
Dinty, that's what we've done is we've manually listed people as you can't speak in this channel.
Yeah, I think I think individual permission, just like we've done. I think that'll also override roles. So
yeah,
it does.
Yeah.
And
that'll work.
I've been in a Discord before where you just get roles automatically from like a bot for reacting to a message, and then by taking away your reaction, it takes away that role.
Yeah, so we're not using that bot. So if you want that, that's.
I think the logistics of assigning and deassigning roles. I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. Gods about just they add their
like-
reaction back.
Yeah. Well, no, like so. Honestly, if we're able to do that kind of timeout role that overrides, then that alleviates the concern of someone adding and removing the role at will. Then that would make it make sense. So
So there's all this logistics about role, but going back to the whole question, is the role
I think
a solution? I'm trying to ask that to the people
is the
here.
timeout a solution? I mean,
That too.
I think timeout being effected using a role, or being enforced using a role. I mean, to me, I think that in conjunction with setting the expectation that people like should forward stuff to us and we'll deal with it, but that we're not going to have as presence because of just politics being politics. And if we do it in conjunction with, just knowing that, we do it in conjunction with, if we happen to see an argument in progress, that just reminding staff to use slow mode, that I think is sitting well with me. So I would be okay with that.
So role plus timeout is what you're saying.
Role plus, well, again, role is kind of the technical way of how it would be enforced, or one way that it could be enforced, and that's something that's actually a little bit easier to manage than
hold on,
the individual permissions on the channel.
If we're going with, we should probably decide whether we need to go with role or not, because that does require, basically, it's an extra step, but it requires all the people who want to be in politics to just sign up for that again, and we have to tell, like, we need to announce that. Like, I think, like, otherwise, like, they need to know about that if they want to go back into it, right?
Yeah, I was gonna, like, if we were gonna do the opt-in, I was gonna say, like, just have like a grace period, like put an announcement, have a grace period for them to get that role before we actually like turn it on.
Or before we, because I think
I had thought that this doesn't really affect P4 though, right? It's
yeah. I mean, because P4 is meant for the like shorter conversations, or like while an event is literally in progress. But gods, the thing is that you also have to deal with the Minecraft side of that channel as well.
Yeah, to be clear, all the bans that on like Nomads and Crimson were just on the politics, the Discord politics channel. We didn't put any restrictions on the P4 side, because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, most of the issues were on the Discord channel.
P4 has been politics channel, yeah.
Yeah, P4 hasn't.
Yeah, those weren't really.
P4 is more for real time.
Yeah, I would also say in regards to those people, they never really were. They didn't really interact much in the Minecraft P4. They are mainly kind of centered in the Discord channel itself.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Correct if I'm wrong in there, but that's kind of the way I took.
No, I think that's accurate. Yeah, I mean, I think having the role eventually would be helpful. Whether or not we're able to implement a grace period kind of thing, if we're able to do that, I think that'd be good. If we're not able to, I still, if we're not able to do a grace period kind of thing, like we'll have to communicate it, but I do still think that like having the role is good, because like that at least addresses my concern of the sustainability and scale of like having staff who are able to having staff who are able to get stuff set up, or like in when stuff happens, that because right now it's a bit finicky to set the manual permissions, but assigning a role is quite easy if we see something that like needs to be dealt with.
Well, I was gonna say with past grace periods, we just do like the next meeting, which would be the next
next meeting. Yeah,
makes it pretty simple, and given my timeline of minutes or like propaganda, and will be pretty quick. So that gives them 2 weeks.
People who are active enough. Yeah, I think 2 weeks is a reasonable expectation. Gods, yes, but like then we have to remember to do it. So.
Okay,
because I can get the propaganda from, we can then add that to talk about. I guess would be the best way to do that.
Okay, so
yeah, I mean it would be a self-assignable.
So back up a bit. So timeouts being put in place, like that's that's our policy going forward. Like if we see something, we want to try to.
Someone is, if someone is causing issues in the politics channel, adding an option to our available things that we can do, in addition to whatever formal warning level we're issuing based on comments or whatever.
Mhm.
The option could also be to issue a timeout from the politics channel,
Mhm.
in which case, as a formal sanction, that person is removed and not allowed to speak in politics.
Mhm. But
So-
sorry, no, hold on. Just to be very clear, what I suggested initially was if we're doing this initially because before we may have a full understanding of what's going on, is what I'm trying to say. Like, because again, I thought the issue I was trying to address is because you don't want that conversation to boil over into like continue on, right?
Oh, right.
Right. So, like a timeout, the timeout would may apply to people that they argued, but they may not actually have been the instigator. It's only after we investigate and look at it and talk to other staff, then we can make a decision. That's kind of what I'm trying.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and I was thinking more in the context of a longer term timeout from the channel of as a sanction.
That can be in place too. Yeah. Sorry if I didn't.
I think there's the short term timeout of someone needs to be removed for the channel for a day or something and then come back. And then there's the long term timeout of a formal sanction of you instigated an argument or you were being a problem person in politics and therefore should not have access to politics for a much longer period of time. I think the mechanism by which, I think that the circumstances that lead to those getting issued are a bit different. The technical implementation is going to be pretty similar between them, if I understand it correctly.
I'll have to look at it. Can you, she's on the minutes. Can you also add short-term timeout and also use of slow mode? Sure. Like, because there might be I can see situations where maybe a whole bunch of people are doing it, and it might
we just need to whack it. We just need to throw a 2-minute slow mode on there. I think that is sitting well with me, so I'm okay to.
I'm more comfortable with that kind of raising the barrier, like just kind of. I think that will help ease my mind. I think of that an expectation I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
I know there are other staff who are also like Sinra was. I think he was the one who initially suggested this idea. I don't know if he's not here, but maybe we can just loop back with him and just see what he thinks about this. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I didn't see any comments from him on this.
Yeah, does this seem okay with people? Like, oh, Kitty, you're still here, by the way. So. We're not implementing until next GSM?
Next GSM or the ISM, CC?
I was saying ISM, but that can be up to, if you want to change that we can.
I don't think it matters too much. It's just we just need to set a date, I guess. So
let's.
What's more comfortability from building in the role setup on TacoBot?
Yeah, I can do it next week, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
Because
All right. So then that gives people. So basically, people will be able to add the role whenever it gets added, and then we will enforce it. So we'll require that role beginning at the ISM
Mhm.
in 2 weeks. And
Mhm.
then the third step is we will also need to add the timeout role, which in addition to, or which would take precedence over the politics role that's opt-in. And if the timeout role is present, then that overrides it and removes the channel again.
Or
And that one is
easier.
not.
Hold on, or they can still set an individual permission, correct?
That too, but
I feel like I think for now, let's just go with the individual permission because again, the only number of people who've crossed that
who need
line.
timeouts at once is pretty small. Yeah.
Yeah. So unless this gets this, if somehow it becomes a serious problem, then we can talk about a role. But
Okay.
honestly, if we get to that point, we're talking about bigger issues. So.
Well, then there's more merit to banning politics altogether. So.
Well, yeah. So.
Okay. So politics is going to go on an opt-in role that will become mandatory at the ISM for people who want to participate in the channel, and then we will issue timeouts, meaning remove the role or put in a blocking permission if individual people are causing problems. Be a little bit more ready to use slow mode and reminding everyone of changing the expectation that staff should not be expected to respond to every incident immediately when we see it.
Mhm.
I'll also just note for the record and for clarity's sake, one of the things that applies regardless of how we chose to moderate politics channel is I know that when I'm looking at stuff, that I'm focusing more on is the discussion civil, and are there individual comments that are being made that are objectively problematic regardless of stance. I know that the way that certain things can be moderated can give the impression that we're trying to regulate the specifics of a political view, and that's not what I'm going for if I'm trying to make a decision on the channel. So
I
just
think
I think I think most people should. I think most staff would share that sentiment that we're not trying to regulate political views. So I think just to get that out there.
unless
That was a
they
concern.
cross a like I there was some
Unless it's
discussion.
like degrading to unless it's like degrading to like human existence. But
Yeah, there was some discussion in this. For some of you, if you've seen the Save MRT thread that Scary Crumb showed up, like I did list a couple of red lines, and like for people like Nomads and Subway, like they basically crossed the line of, advocating for the death of people, or not caring about when that happens. So that if it crosses that line, you can be very sure that staff are going to step in that. So, but everything else, I mean, yeah.
cool. I think we can consider that adopted then.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I'll try to
the
make
next one.
I'll try to not make this one
5B.
too big, because I think part of it might. I think it might. Well, I'll get to it, but there are two parts I'd like to change with the warning system. Let's start with the first one. So, based on discussions I've had with staff, like I don't like the wording that I've seen in there regarding I think there's been a lot of disagreements about what warning level applies to what kind of infraction. And part of it is because the wording in the rules states that these are very loose guidelines, which I don't which one for one, like one, it's not that was not my intention when the system was put in. Frankly, I think that was Mega putting that because he has his own opinions about how he wanted the warning system to be. So that's a miscommunication between me and Mega in that sense. But yeah, like I would like what my intent is those levels should define a sort of default. Like most people should expect that in typical situations, like the warning level should match that infraction. If there are any special circumstances or context that is justifiable in moving the warning level up or down in either direction, then we can apply that. But it does require us to explain in the warning why we've decided on a different warning level. So that's what I'm basically saying. That's what I'm just changing the wording here just to make it clear of what this is. Skelly, you had a comment about this.
I honestly don't have too much of an issue with that portion of it because I think it still does allow for flexibility anyways.
It does bring up a point though, is like there might be still disagreements about what is a valid reason, right? Like what is a valid reason to push it up or down? And the comment I made at the end of your response, Skelly, was from what I've seen, all of the adjustments I've seen suggested have always been down. Like I haven't seen one where we should be going like a level higher. I'm kind of wondering if there's like some sort of misalignment of what, like my worry is like we've set a certain level for like disrespect at level 4, for example. But if we keep if most of the warnings are actually lower than that, then I have to question like what's the point of having that standard? Like the standard no longer becomes a standard at that point. Am I making any sense, or does this? Do I need to explain a bit more here?
Well, I do agree that the warnings have that it's mostly that to go down rather than to go up. I believe the only time when someone has outright been given more than 4 levels at a time, as in a 5 or higher, disregarding anything like that, disregarding like being disrespectful and being in the process of the warning being given, was the aqua warning.
Sorry, that one's an aggregate of multiple warnings though, right? Like it's a bunch of ones combined. Is that not correct or no?
Well, with Aqua, there wasn't, again, it's not like there was a series of individual comments that like were like, oh, this is an L1 and this is an L1 and these add together like with straight math. It was more additive in there was a bunch of comments and a pattern of behavior that we had noticed where we had felt like based on the severity and the constant repetition and the ignoring of instructions that we felt like it was slightly above what we would consider an L4, which then L5 felt to be the most appropriate.
I see. Okay. Sorry, Sky, could you? Sorry for interrupting. Did you want to continue there?
I think perhaps there should be room for some slack, like taking the disrespect category, for example, being like, I'm just gonna make up an example. If you like say to someone, "F you, I hope you die," that's obviously gonna be a level 4 warning. Perhaps there are some lesser levels of disrespect though, like being rude and brushing someone off, or being very dismissive in a rude manner to someone's concerns, but that may not be the same level as telling someone F you, but still enough to be warning, somewhere around the 2 or 3 level.
Yeah, going off on Kitty. So if that's the case, then Skelly, would it be more appropriate then? Because right now it's level 4 disrespect and harassment. It's very broad. It's very general. So and I'm actually seeing on level 3 there's one that's very similar called an uncivil arguments. So would it be better to just reword the standards that are here such that there's a lighter disrespect on level 3 and a more harder disrespect on level 4? Like, would that not help solve that?
I think perhaps it could. Yeah, there just needs to be some room for
Yeah.
for Slack. Yeah, I understand it wants to have guidelines, although I don't want to necessarily make them into laws that we have to abide by 100% of the time. But the new wording still gives room to move it up or down when needed.
I guess my issue is based on the guidelines. If we're still, if like for disrespect, that's a pretty broad range. So I think the guidelines should adapt a little bit to that, right? It doesn't. I guess my concern is if disrespect was like a level, if someone tried to suggest that disrespect at level 2, that'd be pretty like, unless it was like a joke
pretty lenient.
That's pretty lenient. That's a
Yeah,
bit
like-
too low. Yeah. Like it would.
And I mean, like I mean, I did issue an L2 to Frosty recently, just based on.
Mhm.
I know that in context it was a joke, but just really poor choice of language in a comment that, like, in any other context, if that was being used as a direct insult, then I probably would have gone higher. But I stuck with L2 just because, like, more of the joke in poor taste, but using objectively problematic language.
Mhm.
So.
Okay.
I think just the principle of this is good. I think we just need to get a little bit more comfortable with adjusting the base definitions and the base guidelines, if the general pattern has shifted or if we think that it's too broad.
Yep.
I do like
So-
I do like the idea of having a starting point.
So Skelly and I just said, would it be okay if for that specific example of having a lighter disrespect on level 3, can I propose that next GSM?
Yeah,
Or any other?
that would be good.
And if there are any other changes that you think could have a slightly broader range, like I'll take any suggestions for that too. Like, I don't actually now I look at, like, we have level 3 minor griefing and we have level 4 blatant griefing. So that there's already a range for that. So I mean,
Right. I mean,
yeah.
it's dependent on context. I mean,
Yeah.
with that one.
Okay. So I will suggest that for next GSM. It'll be hopefully pretty quick. The other part, which is the automatic level 4 warning for people who just show no remorse. I'll just say this right now. Skelly, your point about in your second paragraph about people's emotions being too high and then they might show remorse later on. To be honest, I think that might be enough to just scuttle this idea, because I actually don't know. I think that's a good point. I don't know actually any way to get around that, to be honest. There are other things I want to talk about, though, but they're kind of ancillary. I don't know if you want to talk about those.
I mean,
Sorry,
we
was
could
change
talk.
number 1 was change number 1? Do we accept that, or?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yes, sure. Are we okay with the rewording there? Sorry.
Sure.
Yes, I'm fine with that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll go for that. Yeah. All right. Sorry, Skelly, go ahead.
Sure. We could talk about the ancillary things if you're okay with the meeting going longer.
I just want to touch on them. I'll try not to take too much people's time because there's a lot of stuff in the meeting. The part about, in your first paragraph, the part about, and this might be worth noting to staff and members too. Like, yeah, you've heard me before say that this is not a daycare and all that sort of stuff. Like, but I think thinking about it more, in order for us to be able to prevent people, like, the goal is to not just react to things and just give warnings. It's to try to prevent these sort of things from happening again. Because frankly, the one thing that annoys me very much is I give a warning to someone and, they get expired or something, and then they do it again later on. And as if they didn't learn anything from it. And to me, that's just like, it's just a never ending cycle. of this. And there have been several times before where, you know, we've gone through this cycle of that sort of thing. So I guess the point I'm trying to make here is, and you can tell me whether you agree with it or not, is there is some level of us, I guess, being a parent, I don't know how best to describe it. Like, we have to make at least an effort to try to explain to someone like what they're doing is wrong. Maybe even asking them why they did it. Just understand, like, you know, why you keep doing this sort of thing. And I cited basically, like, there have been a lot of people who've grown up with the server. They used to be, I'll be blunt, shitheads, like when they were much younger. And because of, whether unintentionally or intentionally, because of our intervention, like, they've taken that to heart and actually became, quote unquote, better people. Like, to be fair, we had that, like, we're doing that work, but most of the work is actually on the person themselves. Like, it's very possible that we could, you know, try to make someone better, but they just don't. It just doesn't work for them, and that's possible too, right? That can happen. So does my argument make sense to you, Skelly? Because I feel like there's a little disconnect on what the warnings are what the purpose of them are supposed to be.
I do agree that there is some element to proactiveness as well as reactiveness as well. When I personally do talk to members and have to warn with them, I have a specific way of doing it as well, which is like somewhat like what you were talking about, which is to first talk about the incident, then try to find out their motivations, talk with them, try to make sure they understand why it was wrong, and then after that, hopefully at that point they've understood, so give them a warning. If they haven't understood and it's clear the conversation has gone nowhere, I'll just announce the warning at that point and try to put a stop to the conversation. So I agree that we do have to be proactive, and in a community like this, the staff we are an element of trying. We also have an element of responsibility of trying to grow the community. Or make the community better. That said, my disagreement isn't necessarily on whether we should be proactive, because we should be proactive in trying to stop repeat offenders. I'm just not entirely convinced. I'm not really convinced that this is the way to do it, because, as you said, you can't force someone to change their thoughts. Most of the work is on them, and upping their warning level could potentially just make themselves for just not showing remorse. I'm not talking about a situation where someone's disrespectful to the staff member, like what's happened in the past a couple times, and we up the warning for disrespect, but just upping the warning level for the person not understanding it could make them entrench themselves more in that opinion and make them feel.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
And make them develop this complex of being persecuted.
So my counter argument to that is, and this is going to sound a little bit blunt, that's too bad for them. Like, trust me, I've seen a lot of players who've gone down that road, and I mean, I sort of count them as a lost cause at that point. Like, again, as you said, it's up to them to figure it out. If they feel like they're being persecuted, then that's more. They're just digging themselves a bigger hole. Like, it does more indicate that they're not really capable of reflecting on what they've done. And there are plenty of examples of people in the history of the server who've done that, even for our best efforts, right? And the part of it is like, yeah, like, there's a going back to the being people's parents. There is a limit to how much we can do. Like we can't be we're going to take some steps. We should take some steps to do it, but there's going to be a point where if it's clear that the person's not going to listen and not going to care, then we shouldn't be trying to put more effort, like more effort into it. Like it just goes into a black hole, that sort of effort. But I don't know. Like I'll also say, like, there's a whole bunch of people, or not a whole bunch, but there's certainly a number of people on the server who they got their level 4 warning and they still haven't, like even years after, they still haven't submitted a reflection letter. And again, I think that's too bad for them. Like it's like there's even people who like come back after years or so, and I tell them, well, if you want your rank back, you got to think about what you did, and they just never do it. So yeah. Does that make sense to you, Skelly? Or I don't know if you have any other comment.
I agree with the thought that it's too bad in terms of the not submitting reflection letters. Although I think the penalty of not getting the rank back is good enough in that case. I'm just more concerned about like a situation where a player gets warned for something relatively minor, like an insensitive joke, and it turns from a level 2 or to level 4 just because they show absolutely no remorse. And I'm thinking, should we up it to level 4 immediately at that point?
Yeah.
Or like
So,
if the player just does, or should we just wait, in that case, give up on trying to talk with the player and wait and see if they reoffend? Because if they do reoffend and we're back 2 weeks later talking about them doing an insensitive joke, which could happen if they got a 4 as well.
Or even worse, that that original warning gets expired, and that they whatever things they get is they just start from the beginning. And again, the point of my proposal was to just try to get out of this loop, this sort of loophole. And again, to be clear, I'm dropping this part of the proposal because I don't think an automatic. I'm not pushing for an automatic level 4 at this point. I will say though that if I see that sort of situation, I would be pushing for it, or at least, or maybe now 3 or something. Like, just if it's clear to me that they're not, and I guess also even after their emotions calm down, I guess if it's clear to me there's no resolution on their end, then I would be, at least in terms of like our discussions of what a warning should be and all that sort of stuff, then I'll be definitely pushing for that in those sort of situations.
I mean, yeah, I do understand your reasoning. It's just that I don't necessarily think that it's the best way to go about it. And I was going to continue on and say, in that case, we'd go ahead and up it to 3 or 4 for the player obviously being a repeat offender at that point. But that's hypothetical.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff that like it factors in with our previous thing, is that, I mean, repeat identical offenses, that's a pretty strong argument to me that the warning level on the reissue needs to be higher. Or arguing back with staff and or just being belligerent about it during the process of notifying them of the warning, like that would also count to me as something where you like that could be a good reason to in the legal term it's called an upward departure, or at least that was a lot of term that was being thrown around in the news around here just because of the whole Derek Chauvin sentencing. So it's I think that maybe saying automatic stuff, that's probably too harsh. And I know, Frumple, that you said that you're dropping that component. So, but I think that just having that in mind, of just reminding folks of staff that in terms of using the framework of what we just decided on for the first half, that if there is something like a good reason that we need to change the severity upwards, that these are good reason, or these could be good reasons depending on context.
Okay, I'm just reading.
And I
some-
agree that I would support of, if there are repeats, that I would support going towards L4, just because that's a pretty L4, it does have a pretty significant barrier to it in terms of having it restored of the forced reflection period. So that is something
L4.
that I usually am. Yeah.
Sorry, just to clarify, L4, even if the previous warning was expired by that point, because
Yes.
it starts to get into a question of like how far since a warning has like if it hasn't expired, that's pretty clear. You just add on to the warning. But if it's
Right.
like
But
a
if it's
month,
something that happened,
yeah, a month,
if it's
or-
immediate, yeah, if it's an immediate repeat right after the expiry, then I probably would advocate for a higher one. If it's been like a couple years, then that's a different story. But yeah, if we're talking in a situation where it's repeated very quickly, then yeah, I would still recommend going for a higher than the guidelines may indicate as a starting point.
Kitty has a point that we could add a line that says warning levels might be raised when it's a repeat offense, even for a warning has expired. And we also don't have a statute of limitations, which I don't know. We might want to add at some point.
We've talked about that previously in other contexts, but that again, in terms of simplicity, I'd rather not. I'd rather just say the guidelines are a starting point. We'll adjust up or down based on a number of factors, including the person's history.
Okay. Noah says, I foresee this when this affects someone, it will be unclear and will need to be clarified at GSM. Could you, what do you mean unclear? Like, again,
I'll
there
also
could.
say that
Sorry, go ahead.
what you guys don't see is typically, and I wish that staff would actually use the threads feature because the staff channel gets a little cluttered. But there is a discussion among staff before we issue anything above L4. And actually, oftentimes for anything really above L3. So, you know, we do try to discuss it before we actually issue stuff too. You guys just don't see that just because yeah, there's just a lot.
No, if someone doesn't understand their warning, if it's unclear, then they can always ask the staff member for clarification. Usually when we issue, the important thing is when when we issue the warning, we do give explanation for it, right? So,
and the explanation that we give to the recipient, no, and I'm inclined to say we'll deal with it if it comes. Whenever we issue a warning, the recipient, we give them a much more detailed version compared to what we put in the notifications channel or on the spreadsheet.
it's very important. Like historically, every warning we've issued, it's very important that the person we want to walk away from that such a person that acknowledges that they understand what to do. And there have been some cases where they don't. In those,
And the main thing, and specifically that they understand what action caused the warning to get issued.
Mhm.
Okay, I think we're ready to move on.
Yeah, I have nothing. Okay, I'm going to move on from this topic. So, yeah, change
we're
1
ready
is
to move on.
implemented, but change 2 is not.
Change 2 is dropped. Okay. Cool. So then 5C, Gods wants to allow trustees to place beacons.
I personally don't see an issue with this.
Yeah, my comment is mainly just kind of it sparks the old discussion we've had in the past over what can the should we have anything else for Premiere?
Let's
Because that's currently the only perk we have for Premiere.
We
So
have
moving
Dynmap
that-
markers still.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be honest, I think at this point, Premiere is very much a prestige
Player
thing.
rank.
It's a prestige thing. Like it's the ultimate thing to get. You get recognized for it. You get a shiny yellow tag for it, and you have to make a speech and all that sort of shit. So
Yeah, so I was just saying, like, I know it's sparked we've talked about in the past about whether it was like we've done enough for Premiere, like it was enough perks or whatever, and like this is kind of taking this way to trusty it. So I was kind of mentioning that.
Is it still it's still possible to lag someone though if someone like theoretically, like I'm just theorizing, some trustee puts in a whole bunch of beacons somewhere, and that can still cause client lag, right? Like that's still a thing.
I mean, you could do a lot worse with spawning mobs, and trustees can do that because mobs can move and beacons can't.
Mm-hmm.
Beacons you can spot from a distance, but like mobs, you get in a chunk with 5,000 polar bears in it.
Also,
then you have a problem.
Premier is filtered by how good you build, not how mature you are. I'm not saying that anyone who is currently trustee is immature in any way, but I'm just saying that the filter for Premier is not based on maturity like it is for trustee or moderator.
Yeah, no, this perk is in a weird spot. It's not based on competence.
And
It's
I
just
have no problem with
It's
proposal.
based
I
on
was just
prestige.
mentioning. I just had that as a remark.
Yeah, I mean, I think really the only difference that you get as you move up, and again, just to be clear, that this is talking about the player rank, not the town rank. The town rank, I think we have, with the airfield stuff, just based on necessity, that is gated behind your town rank. The player rank, the only thing that you really get is like NPC and home limits. So, I mean, I think that and those are really just a convenience of reflecting of when you have the higher towns. So, I'm fine with this proposal.
any other further objections to this? I don't see any other problems. Okay.
Moving
Moving on.
none. Approved. 5C approved. 5D, Minecraft
Very quick.
117.
Yeah, very quick. Yeah, it's happening on Monday. It is a little more involved. I've tested as much as I can on beta. I don't know if they're good. There could be other issues that come up. So if next week when it comes back on 1.17, please, if you find any issues, please let me know because that'd be great. And after this, my plan is to try to install vehicles plugin onto beta. And maybe that could get in next month, depending on how much testing happens on that. So that's it.
Cool. Okay, the end. All right, transport projects. 6A, Radiant Ranger 26 would like to extend the B844. Thank you, Radiant Ranger, for a lovely and well annotated map.
Not me.
So right now it's just a little tiny stub from Bristol. Oh, it's just.
It's extending it. I think that's already existing because that's the road that goes
Right.
between Caloro
The existing.
all the way.
Yeah, the
through
existing bit
northwest.
is in Caloro. Got it.
Yeah, Caloro to northwest. They're extending it like northwestern to Bristol.
To Bristol. Got it. Okay.
Is it correct that the law of the road is just going parallel to the A roads in that area? Is that how I'm reading this right?
The Arctic line.
That's the Arctic.
Oh, never
That's
mind.
the Arctic line.
Yeah, it's just weaving through the Arctic line.
I'm fine with this.
Okay. I was reading A54. I was like, that sounds like a road. No, okay.
It's the Arctic line.
It's in the area, but it's in the wrong ward. That's in the wrong ward.
Okay.
This is Ward 8.
Are we good with this then? I approve.
Yeah, I'm good with this.
Okay.
Approved. 6B, A90 extension by PTLD.
Does this even need staff approval given that it's within Waterville's borders?
I think
it's an A road.
Well, I'm okay with it anyways, considering how short it is.
Yeah, this is fine.
I think it's fair. PTLD might just want to be cautious about it, so that's fair.
Yep. I can respect that. I'm fine with this.
Yeet.
Okay. 6B approved. 7A. This is a resubmission due to a bit of change in the funding and remapping the funding, and also just it's been a while.
Yeah, Missa, you got a rewording of this, right, from Ava?
Yeah, I was hoping for something different, but I was hoping that they would rewrite the proposal. Oh goodness, words. Proposal from scratch. So it would just be like a one-shot proposal rather than several quotes of previous ones with updated information. But I mean, I guess this works.
Okay. I don't know if it's a relevant question. What was the reason why Ava? Because Ava proposed this a long time ago, and the event never happened. I don't know what the reasons why it
I
didn't
can't
happen.
remember if it's just because he didn't get people or because he/whoever was supposed to help him was too busy. I'm gonna say that while I normally would be okay with letting it go ahead, I'm not too confident with whether Avanish will actually host this well, especially with the the absence of a helper with this
Yeah,
event.
I'm increasingly concerned. I share that with you, Skelly. I think that the merits of the event originally were fine. And I think that that's also when there seemed to be a little bit more momentum behind it. I would like to see more concrete plans in place and a named, if there's going to be assistance, to know who those are going to be um, before I would feel comfortable going forward with it.
Do we possibly want to approve this conditionally on the condition that Ava finds a helper? Like,
I think it needs to be resubmitted because the way that this was written is still a little unclear. And I think Missa, you commented that just like it would you say that it felt like it was a jumbled amalgamation of the previous proposal and some new stuff?
Yeah,
Or
that's why
yeah.
I rejected the original one, especially because it just had like strike throughs of the old information and the new information like red or something. And it just, yeah, it wasn't easy to follow.
Yeah.
I
So I mean,
did.
this is like reasonably okay, but it's still tricky to figure out exactly what is being asked here.
I am the one who did suggest to Ava to just resubmit the proposal, but how he did it, that's on him. So I don't know.
Yeah, I would like to see a resubmission with more concrete plans before I
and a helper
would feel comfortable
specifically.
supporting it, and a named helper if he thinks that's going to be necessary. Which, looking at the spec, it looks like that'll be necessary, but I'll leave that judgment call to Avanish to decide.
Sorry, who's helping and what other details are you saying?
So the
I think
proposals.
just as much concrete planning information as possible. I mean, dates, game rules, venue.
Yeah, the proposal
as much as he's able to provide us.
specifically, the proposal right now says I am hoping Kingsgate and Bobby will be helping, but it's not confirmed.
Right.
So I think it gives them a lot more confidence if there's a confirmed helper, because if those two aren't there, I don't know.
Yeah, so we're denied. Just get more
This
details
is
nailed
a
down next time.
denial. And again, specifically, like, what are the rules of the game?
Yeah, I don't see that here. Yeah. Okay, denied. Moving on.
Moving on, IATs and bypasses. So the all-rounder MC wants to IAT Charlton, Zephyr South 38.
There's a comment from PTLD about the history of this place that is maybe relevant.
I agree with PTLD that that even if Ben is banned, I'm not sure if a damnatio memoriae, a damnation of memory through demolishing Charlton, should necessarily be done. But also at the same time, I'm uncomfortable with doing an IAT, but regulating what whether the all-rounder would be able to destroy these things or not. So I think it needs to be either give it to him or deny it.
Well, we've done this in the
Yeah,
past.
I know.
We did that in the past for Stargrad.
I think
Yeah, I know we
USSR
have
grad
one in the
is
past.
different because USSR grad was a gigantic town, whereas if you TP to me, there really isn't too much here besides this.
And USSR,
So-
we contacted the player who was somehow available. In this case, we don't have that. So,
And I want to say that we may have done that in the past. I think that was probably a mistake of trying to give IATs on condition. I know that when we handle voluntary transfers, that we have said that we will not enforce any restrictions on a voluntary transfer. So for the sake of simplicity, I would like to move away from attaching conditions to IATs.
I saw the all rounder was in chat. Is that all rounder? Are you still listening to the meeting? Are you still here? Because I'm wondering if did you read PTLT's comment at all?
They're on Discord earlier.
Yeah, I don't know if
They were staying up late or early in the morning. They might have gone back to sleep because they were watching some motorsports.
Okay. I would have liked their opinion. Well, first, if they saw PTLT's comment, and second, if they'd be okay with going along with that at all. But
the other thing is this good, in terms of distance, is this close enough to the town in terms of development?
I'm generally supportive of the idea. I think it's fine.
which town is it close to? Sorry.
ZS 39.
Yeah, 39 is his town down there, southeast.
Yeah, so he currently has 39. He wants 38.
And then to the west is Lithium's town of Ciolo.
Okay, that's okay.
So he's been coordinating with Lithium apparently about the station. It's kind of a coordination with them apparently for roads, both to connect his town, the S39, and Ciolo. And you want to get the station for that reason, if I read the proposal correctly.
Doesn't seem like he's responded here, so.
Yeah, I don't know what to decide for this, to be honest. What do you guys think?
I mean, this is so little development that. So if this was more development, then I would be more concerned with trying to preserve it. I'm honestly of the mindset that it's two 2-point bid buildings and a little rail line. There's not really much there. So to me, I'm okay transferring it. Possibly we could let the all-rounder know of, hey, this place has a bit of history with it, but I personally would be okay either way, regardless of what the all-rounder
preservation
decides
is
to
the
do with
main
it.
concern. Maybe Elite can be kind of roped in for this to kind of maybe move some of the builds to Bennion, if that is the main concern.
Yeah, actually
Does
moving.
Elite,
Sorry, go ahead, Scott.
does Elite own Benyon or not?
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yes, it
He
was
does.
given to him to clean up because I had been helping him with the regen of Bennion.
Perhaps he could do that, although it would be kind of funny that we would basically be moving buildings for a band member.
Well, true, but member
are the
has brought
buildings
up.
just like boxes? Scully, are the buildings at this town, are they just like empty boxes, or do they actually have stuff in them?
Let me check again. Just TP'd.
I mean, this is barely.
It's barely anything.
I'm
I was like, the
struggling
main
to
concern
even.
that
They have.
the main concern is
I'm
that
struggling.
saying that.
The buildings are
Like, I'm
furnished,
struggling.
yeah, but it's
Okay.
like Ben
Okay.
6331's furnishing.
Okay. I mean, here's the thing. We haven't done this for anybody else. Like, this is really a deviation from how we've handled stuff in the past.
Yeah,
I'm
I only
inclined
put
to
out there
approve
if
it
that was
as
the main
is.
concern. I'm fine with just doing whatever.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
inclined to
possible
approve it
that
as is.
PTLD just wants. Well, actually, I don't want to put words in PTLD's mouth.
So my interpretation of the situation is I get that there is history here. I'm struggling to I think it like barely meets the definition of significant development, which if the buildings weren't furnished, then I would say the claim can be voided and the whole space would, under any other rules, would be able to be just regened for whoever wants it.
Yeah, and I will also
I
add
get
on.
that. I mean, I get that
This
there
isn't the
there may
only spot
be
of Ben's development. He has other areas that he has built builds in.
right, and then the third argument is that we have never done this kind of preservation of a person to this degree. So I get that we don't want to destroy something that belongs to somebody else. At the same time, we've never protected it to that degree before. So
Regardless
part
of
of the
whether they've been
IIT,
sorry,
yeah.
regardless of whether
Go
they've
ahead,
been
Purple.
banned or not, there've been plenty of IITs where they're inactive players, right? So
Right. And I mean, most of the time, it's this proposal seems like it's more of just having the rights to the area, not necessarily to raise the town. I'm of the opinion that, I mean, I would recommend approving this, giving no, Skelly, this is 8A.
Could you?
Giving
PTLD is here.
Yeah. I would be okay with giving the all-rounder a heads up that this exists, but then letting the all-rounder decide what to do with it.
I think what's making this a little difficult for me is that they didn't really give us a clear idea of what they intend to do with the area. Like you were saying, we don't know if they intend to raise it or if they just intend to work around it. And I think generally in the past with these IATs, we've asked that they at least give us some sort of idea of what they plan to do with it.
that is true. Yeah. The only part I can see in here says, I look forward to using this mountainous area to create new and innovative builds. What exactly that means, I don't know. There's no mention of what the existing build, what's going to happen to the existing build.
Because I'm just thinking back to the IAT I did like years back with First Mountain. And like part of my proposal there was I would leave that town intact and just build around it. And so I think it would be helpful if we had an idea of what their intent is for the existing development.
So based on that, would it be worth just rejecting the IAT and he can all rounder can resubmit with those details?
I mean, that's the clean. I mean, if you're thinking of like a when in doubt, don't situation, then that that lends itself to a denial and resubmit. I mean, this is also why we have the ISM if it's only a 2-week hold. So
yeah, and this is right. Like we do expect at least some level of what are you going to do about it. So, and we have there have been cases in the past where we've seen like a maybe not like this build, but maybe a beautiful build that maybe an active player, and we put in like what are you going to do about it? Like if you're just going to blow it up,
then yeah,
probably
then historically in that situation, then we have denied the proposal. But
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I will say the all-rounder I think does have a strong claim or strong priority of claim to the area just based on proximity. So okay,
Sure.
yeah, I follow the logic that I think if that we should probably get some better info on what it's going to be used for.
Okay.
I think that makes sense to me.
Denied.
Okay, 8B is a denied. All right. So then we have 2 MRT line extensions. CC, any comments on your on the ESX?
It's done. That's all. That's the main thing. And yeah, it's done. The meme is dead. It's done. We had 4 stations open for allocation. We had 1 application. Fresco, take your station at ES34. I'm there right now if you want to get your claim signed there. The rest of the stations have been allocated per close towns in proximity, as noted on the agenda.
Okay, cool.
And then, yeah, Volpe, in terms of help, Volpe did do the good chunk of it up to Cremona. He's very proud of the underwater tunnels and Easter eggs that he did hide. So be on the lookout for those. Protocol Needin did help me at the end. Needin placed the station. ES39. Protocol did a beautiful curve in Cremona, that little S-bend that you see on Dyn map. Otherwise, let's go.
That curve took 3 hours.
All right, and then Mojang and Skelly will also open the MX4 at the same time.
Does Moj want to speak?
Skelly. Moj, I'll send you an invite if you want to speak, but you certainly don't have to.
This is going to be an MCR ad. I wouldn't mind
Get
it.
his
I
audio
thought,
ready.
I mean, MCR is kind of dead, isn't it?
It's kitties.
Yeah, Kitty owns MCR now.
Oh, great.
Moj, click on the staff meeting voice channel. You should see your invite there.
If you want to speak, you can also just ignore it.
He said he does.
Okay. Yeah, so Moj, there should be a button at the bottom of your window that you can click on that will let you become a speaker. So.
CC, I TP to a random Eastern Line station, and just so happens you were also here at the same time. Big fun.
Okay. Skelly, while Moj is figuring this out, do you want to give your speech?
So station allocations, M55, I want to apologize for that being on the form. We talked and decided that it's too close to 10 block to be assigned. Sorry to anyone who wanted it. 4 applications for claims. Everyone got a station, although not necessarily the one they wanted first choice. M56 allocated to Minecraft 252. 59 to the all-rounder MC, M60 to Cracker Bracker, and M61 to Barner Clue. M58 will be the only station that is free to claim as of now.
So yeah, if you
All right.
if you still want like to build in this line, that's the station to go. Yeah. But other than that, everything has been allocated too.
Cool. Moj, any speech that you want to add?
So yeah, as you guys probably know, this is probably the second, I guess, player staff collaborated MRT line after the Lakeshore Zephyr North project of Autobus 22. So yeah, Pog. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
All right. Well, thank you both for all your work on the project, and congratulations on successful line completion. I hereby declare the Mesa Line Extension 4 and the Eastern South Extension open for riding, and the unallocated stations are now available for claiming. That is it for the meeting. So time is 3:48, so not too bad. So if are there any questions that people? So actually, I will read the trustee meeting notes. If there are any questions that people have, go ahead and put them in the meeting live channel and ping me, and then we will answer them as soon as I finish. No, that yeah, you got to do the full ping, and then we will finish. Yeah, we'll just after I finish reading the trustee notes, then we'll answer any questions that have come in during that period. All right, the trustee meeting notes. Nominating Michigan football for trustee. The vote was originally a 0-1 against. However, the speaker magically switches the numbers to 1-0 in favor. Sounds like trustees are rigging their own elections here. I don't know how much I trust them. Nominating, quote, the meat, unquote, for trustee, passed. Nominating Los Angeles World Airports for trustee, passed 4-0. Nominating Gods as Pufferfish for trustee, passed. Nominating the Texas Instruments TI-84 for trustee, passed. Y'all didn't go TI-84 Silver? Wow, going OG here.
You were too broke.
Nominating Needham NL for temporary trustee for this meeting. Motion ties 1-1 downtown motion ties 1-1, quote, downtown open bracket up tempo close bracket, end quote, by Anya Taylor Joy. I don't know what that means. Nominating the map wall of Sandsvik IKEA for trustee, passed. Nominating Tom and Jerry for trustee, open bracket, yes, I heard you, close bracket, semicolon, passed. Motion to allow staff members to vote on proposal for the remainder of this meeting, but prevent them from proposing anything. Motion ties, speaker votes You Do Something to Me by Frank Sinatra. So I assume that means that it passed, which is great because, or no, I assume that it didn't pass because then that would allow me to continue to bribe you all to do to put dumb submissions out. Voting on motion to recognize the Sans Not Luigi NPC as the one true Sans Not Luigi. Motion carries. Speaker adjourned the meeting here. Okay, are there any questions?
Kitty has a question.
Have any of the suggestions verbally discussed during the talk about change number 2 of topic 5B been adopted, or is that a subject for future GSM? So,
yeah, I believe
yeah,
I
Trump will
said.
let you-
I believe I said. Well, let me clear this. By change, are you specifically talking about the one change to the standards, such that there'll be minor? I guess we'll just placeholder minor disrespect for level 3 and major disrespect for level 4. Is that the change that you're referring to, Kitty? It's one of them. I thought that was the only change. What other change were you referring to there?
That's just to propose. Sorry for speaking out.
I think formalizing it is like, I don't think we made a decision on formalizing it like that.
Yeah, no, I did say that I was going to propose it for the next GSM. Like, I thought I made that clear. Oh, the formalized rule about have repeat. Oh, so your suggestions. I guess I can include it in the proposal next GSM, though I have to think about the it's not to be clear, it's not adopted right now. But I can throw I wasn't going to, but I could throw those into the next in a proposal for the next GSM.
Yeah. If something comes up in the next month, I think that since we did adopt proposal number 1, that I think we have the flexibility to include some of that stuff, and then I think that we will add the formal language based on a proposal in a month at the next GSM. Yeah. So the short answer is it was not adopted formally, but if a situation arises that we need to use it, we might.
Question from Ludus: when will the vehicle plugin be added with the 1.17? If not, when? Okay, so the plan is, I'm not going to put I'm not going to update to 1.17 and the vehicles plugin. That's too many new changes. So we're going to update main server to 1.17 on Monday, 2 days from now, and then we'll see how it goes because people will use it, and there might be other bugs and stuff, and then maybe on that day or soon after that, I'll be starting to play around with the vehicles plugin on beta server. So yeah, and then I'll let people know when I think it's after I've configured it, when it's at a point where it could be tested. Because as far as there are a lot of different vehicles in this plugin, and so there could be a lot of potential ways for it to go wrong. But
so
yeah.
To answer the question, so 117 on main on Monday, vehicles on beta later.
Later, or maybe on Monday too. Like it depends on how much time I have, but I'll get to it.
Yeah, I mean later could mean later in the day on Monday, but
Yeah.
the second step is vehicles plugin goes to beta. The third step is after vehicles has been tested on beta, then if all goes well, then we'll look at potentially bringing it to main.
My goal is to try to get vehicles on main next month, like December. So right in time for the holiday season, because I think that'd be cool. So yeah, we'll see. And of course, it's assuming that the vehicles plugin doesn't have a big show-stopping bug or some issue, which it might, but we'll see. I don't know if there's a slate. You can look up go to the plugin page yourself and look up all the documentation. It does have a list of all the vehicles available. There's like helicopters, trucks, tanks, that sort of stuff.
Any other questions?
Can we be done in less than 3 hours?
Seeing none, I think we can call this done.
Yay.
Moj is still here.
You're still in this channel. All right.
Yeah.
I have too much brain. Oh, go ahead. PTLD, no. You got to give us a minute. Chill.
No, go ahead, Chief. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, once we're done with this, I have too much brain, so I need you all to help me kill my brain by playing more Baba as you, so I'll be hanging out in general. If
I don't want to do it now, Chief. My brain is dead. I can't.
You don't need to be at every time. I'm just gonna play it and see what happens.
Okay. No, I'm getting dragged into this. I'm gonna be joining them. Okay. Yeah. Just. Oh yeah. I'll answer Noah's question. Yeah, the politics channel is not going, and P4 is not going to be banned. Decision we're going to go with for now is. Actually, what was the decision?
It was a couple things. So one is we're going to require there's no ban on real world politics. The proposal was generally denied. What we are going to do is the politics channel will change, so it's similar to the beta channels. It's going to be visible based on an opt-in role. Staff will be able to, and we are formally approving using what we're calling a timeout, which is essentially removing your permission to speak in the channel as a sanction. So that could be done on a short-term basis if there's an argument in progress and one person's being particularly troublesome, or it could be a longer-term sanction that gets issued in conjunction with a formal warning. And we're also wanting to change the expectation for how the channel works and gets moderated, and we want to make it formal that people should not expect staff to respond to everything immediately. So basically, not a whole lot changes other than expectations of staff need to change, and the channel will become opt-in based on a role.
And I just want to make this very clear. Like Chief and CC have made their points. Like, just to make it very clear to everyone, this is my impression of what I'm getting from staff, and this includes myself too, is we're kind of fed up with moderating that channel.
We're fed up with arguments.
Yeah. There's also we don't have any resources or motivation or time to moderate it, and that was why this was suggested. But I can certainly see why this is not. I think it does have a lot of detrimental factors to it. So we're going to try this solution as I guess you could say a compromise. But and we'll see how the channel goes. There is, again, the argument is that, as Kitty has said, like there've been some bad actors. But if we see that the politics channel is still being
if it's still being a problem, like
like
as
before.
I think a
Yeah.
few people mentioned, this is also more of a warning shot to people who are using the politics channel that we are reaching our limit and that we may need to revisit this in the future. And future conversations may put a little bit more merit on banning the topic outright. So,
Yeah. So play nice in that channel, please. Like that's the least we can do. Yeah.
this is kind of, yeah, don't make us come over there again, please.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to call that done at exactly 3 hours. So that is the meeting closed. Thank you, everybody, for coming along. The next meeting will be the infrastructure staff meeting on Saturday, November 27th at 7 p.m. UTC. Topics are due Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, November 25th at 7 p.m. UTC, or American Thanksgiving Day, I should specify, at 7 p.m. UTC. The next general staff meeting will be the December one, which is Sunday, December 12th.
Golf, yeah.
And moderator nominations will be due at 7 p.m. UTC on Sunday, December 5th.
And reminder, there's no December ISM. So if you want to get in any
Yes,
sort of
that-
events or things, you need to get them in the next 2 meetings for the holidays. So
Yeah, December. Yep, as per usual, the December GSM is the final one of the year. So, and then just a reminder, just based on the thing that I mentioned at the very beginning of the meeting, but in case people forgot, in terms of closure timeline, we are still operating business as usual until Frumple and I announce otherwise. So we will not. We're not even going to begin thinking about that until after New Year's. So
or even way after
continue
that.
way after New Year's, but like it's not going to be thought about this year. So continue to submit all of your proposals and things as usual, and we're going to carry on from there. Thanks, everybody. If you want to help break your and my brain with Baba as you, I'll be hanging out in general in a few minutes. Thanks, all.
And for our viewers on MBS, thanks for joining us for our live GSM coverage for this month. That is the end of the meeting. We will have later on today, we're going to have, or later on tonight, we're going to have GSM recap, where we'll give you a recap of all the important decisions made at today's GSM. And if you want to take a look at our Twitter feed, you can do so at twitter.com/news_MBS, where we have been live tweeting the results of the meeting. We'll also have a new special edition of the Bulletin next weekend on Sunday, over the events surrounding Frumple's decision to shut down the MRT at the end of 2022. For now, from MBS News at a random station on the Mesa Line extension, I'm Kitty Catwoman 231, and thanks for watching.